Welcome to another episode of Trail and Error. This week, Tris and I are joined by Laura O'Driscoll. Laura, welcome to the podcast.
Hi guys, nice to see you there. Thanks for having me on.
Hiya.
Thank you for coming on. Laura, I always have an ulterior motive when I ask guests to come on, and I really am desperate to pick your brains. You placed first female in Cape Wrath in 2022, which is how I heard about you. But I'd love to talk about other things, obviously. But it's how long have you been in the ultra running, trail running world, and how did you come to it?
Oh wow, that's a very
It's
long
a big question.
Yeah. How long do you have? Wow. Well, I guess I've always been a runner. I used to be a sprinter actually growing up. 100 meters was my distance. So I wasn't a born ultra runner, definitely not. I loved speed and I would have injured a little bit in my teens and then kind of fell out of running when I wasn't as competitive and then got back into it kind of after college. I always ran, but like competitively. I got into triathlon just because I used to cycle everywhere. I didn't drive and I was a lifeguard through college, so it just kind of seemed like the natural
Had to get to
thing
work.
to do. Yeah. So I did that for a few years, but I was always in the mountains. My dad was an avid kind of mountain walker. He's a mountain leader as well. So I used to spend a lot of time in the hills, but not like competitively. And then I realized I could cut my day in half. I go out in the hills with him and it would take over a whole Sunday. And I was like, God, if I run this, I could do this in like a third of the time. This is great. So I kind of started dabbling in the mountains then in tandem with when I was doing triathlon. And then I found adventure racing and I was hooked. I was like, okay, no, I'm going off road. This is for me. So that was probably 2006, 2007. I kind of started getting into the trail and the off road. And again, would have started like shorter distances. And then I lived in Australia for a bit, in Canada for a bit. And it was actually probably more a way of making friends. There was trail groups and they used to go out for these crazy long runs, which I would just go out for the crack. Like I wouldn't be training for anything. I was like, oh, this is kind of fun. And then I did a few races. Canada was probably where I got really into racing on the trails and a little bit longer distance. And then when I came home again, it was just kind of fell into the longer distances, the multi-stage thing. I'd actually signed up for a race in Nepal, which I'm going to go to do finally next month, but that was supposed to happen in 2020. And it was cancelled due to COVID, and then it was postponed. And Cape Wrath was always on the radar, but it actually coincided at the time with the Himal in Nepal.
Oh no!
Yeah, it did. Yeah, so that year, and I was thinking, okay, I'll do the Himalaya, and then I look at Cape Wrath, and my partner at the time, husband now, he had signed up for Cape Wrath, and my race was postponed again, and I was like, oh well, sure, I'm doing the training, I might as well give it a lash and see what this multi-stage lark is all about. So that's kind of what got me doing the multi-stage. I kind of accidentally fell into Cape Wrath, but it was always kind of on the radar. And although I was injured for most of the race, to be honest, it was just such an awesome experience. And the injury wasn't anything it was just a bad luck injury. I kind of rolled my ankle and carried it, and it has caused me a little bit of grief since. But I felt like my body felt stronger in the multi-stage than it did in the kind of really long ultras. Like, I'm kind of good up to 50k because I love to run, and then after that it gets more of a shuffle. So what I love about the multi-stage is you can race them, you can treat them as like race day every day, as opposed to this long slog of just the kind of one continual run. And it seems to work with my body a little bit better too, because as I said, I come from a sprint background, so I tend to run a little bit more like a sprinter and less like an ultra runner. So that's grand. I can kind of get away with it, probably not even up to 50k, but after that the body starts to talk to me a lot.
So did you roll your ankle in the race, or
I
did you bring it
did.
in?
No, my ankles were brilliant up until Cape
Wow.
Wrath. I never had issues with my ankles, touch wood. I think I rolled them a couple of times in primary school playing basketball, and that was about it. But no, I found actually the mountain running really strengthened my ankles. So it
Mm.
wasn't kind of an issue. And whatever way I rolled, I was I at the start of day 3? So I still had quite a bit to go, maybe halfway through day 3. And the way I rolled it was kind of inward, so it was a really shitty roll.
Mm.
And I think because everything was starting to swell up over the race, it was probably disguised how bad it was. Like I was just taped up
Mm.
basically. But hindsight, should I have gone on? Probably not, to be honest. But I just got so caught up in the crack and the adrenaline, and every day, like I'd be back into the medical tent, kind of going, no, I'm not going out there tomorrow. That's it. This is me done. I'm done. And then they'd be like, oh, we'll wrap you up. You'll be fine. We'll do this. We'll do that. And I go to bed and I tell the other girls in the tent, no, that's me. I'll see you. You know, it's lovely to meet you. And then I'd
All your
find
good vibes,
myself,
packed up,
yeah,
ordered your taxi.
absolutely. Every day from about probably day 4 on, I was like, I was gone. And then I'd rock up at the start. Or I'd wake up and then I'd be like sitting at the breakfast going, no, that's me. And then I'd find myself getting ready and then I'd rock up.
Really? So getting up in the morning and being like
Oh,
pretty
I was
much like packing
totally,
it in.
yeah. Yeah, I was
Really?
like, this
It
is
must have been
crazy.
some breakfast, eh? So
I'm
like,
telling you. Yeah, and the guys like in the tracker tent, they were the best just at the very start. And they were like, we knew we'd see you. We knew we'd see you.
yeah.
So yeah, it was mentally, it was, to be honest, like from day 3 on, it was a bit of a blur, the whole thing. Yeah.
I get that in certain, like, if I get deep into a training block and, I mean, I don't know, certainly I experienced this. I guess it's true for most people. But once I get up to like really high mileage, like 120 miles, 130 miles a week, and the sort of the fun of running is kind of gone by this point. It's like I'm doing it for the end goal of the race or whatever. And there's bit, maybe there's a few niggles creeping in and the body's not feeling great, maybe not properly recovered, but you kind of stuck with this plan and you give it a bit of flexibility, but also you're like, well, I've got to get these miles in.
Yeah.
And every day I like get up and I'm like, I think it's time for a day off. Like I get out of bed and it's like creaking around the place and you're like, all right, well, that's fine. And then, you make the coffee, you drink the coffee, kind of do the morning thing with the kids. And then you're like, I think I could probably just about get out for a run, actually. And then the next thing you know, you're lacing up trainers and off you go. And you down the road and you're like, really didn't think I was going to be doing this today.
No. It's like autopilot, but like, yeah, it's something else. There's something else going on in the mind. I think sometimes the mind it's good. Like the mind can be stronger than the body, but often
Definitely.
it can be dangerous. That's
it can.
It's kind of,
I think in a race environment, it's good that the mind gives up way after the body does, because it gets you over the line or gets you going faster than you thought you could go, or your body doing things. But I think in a training plan, then it can definitely be your undoing as well. If your mind, the steel mind, just like you're going to go out there and you're going to do those, like 10-minute tempo intervals, whatever, and
you're like dragging your leg behind you. And
exactly.
Yeah.
I've got a vision of 4 or 5 women sat at the breakfast table on Cape Wrath going, "There's Laura. I told you she was fucking with us. She told us she was going home."
Yeah,
mind games.
I know. I don't think I made many friends.
I had a similar thing on Dragon's Back. For like 3 hours into the first day, I rolled my ankle.
Oh God!
Yeah, and I was like, "Oh my God, this race is over!" Like already. And I was at the top of a mountain and had to sort of hobble my way down. And by the time I got to the bottom, it started to feel a little bit better, but it was not good. And then I had the big climb up Trifan, and that sort of walking on it, sort of climbing rather than kind of running, and not kind of pounding weight onto it, but rather sort of using the muscle and the sort of strength of the muscle, sort of anesthetized it, or took a distraction away because other things hurt instead.
Yeah.
And by the time I got to the end of the first day, it was not great, but it was manageable. But I still sort of thought to myself, I'm going to wake up tomorrow morning, it's going to be swollen like hell, and this is probably the end of the race for me. But I woke up and it wasn't too bad, especially after I walked around on it. And as the week went on, it kind of got better.
Yeah.
And I wasn't really even thinking about it. I had other things to think about towards the end of the week, and there wasn't really much swelling or anything. Anyway, finished the race, got home, and I think I had a bath that evening, and then woke up the next morning, and it was swollen to hell. And it was
Yeah.
like my body had my mind had told my body, we've got a week of this to get through. We need to just sort of like put the kind of triaging of this ankle on hold for a few days, just get it working, and then at the end we can deal with the kind of fallout of it all. And the body did exactly that.
Yeah, it's funny. We were the exact same after Cape Wrath, myself
Yeah.
and Johnny, my husband, and we were calling each other Shrek and Fiona for about a week after, because like we just had like trunks for ankles. There was no ankles, there was no foot. It was just a big blob. You just couldn't even fit into our like flip flops or our sliders or anything. It was
Oh, shit.
very very pretty, very pretty.
Yeah, I had a number of pairs of shoes that I could not get my foot into because the sort of swelling went right down onto the foot and everything.
Yeah.
And,
But you're right. It was kind of like, it was sore. It was injured the whole week, but it was literally when we stopped and like the day after, everything just, ballooned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is pretty amazing what you can. I mean, that's the thing that's kind of got me with this multi-day thing now, and I've got one more big single race this year, but I think going forward, I'm definitely leaning towards the multi-day stuff. I just think it's that cumulative effort, cumulative experience. I just find it. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I've only done Dragon's Back so far, but I just found it fantastic.
Yeah, and it is an experience, like, and I like that it drags on for a week, that it's not over in a couple of days. And again, like, it was a blur, but you still remember all those lovely little interactions and experiences you have before and after, and with the race crew. And like there's a lot more to it than just the actual time that you're racing.
It's that bubble, isn't it? Again,
Yeah, and just being switched off as well for a week is great. Like that in itself is like, pay for that. So it's I mean, like, Cape Wrath as a race it's an amazing race. It really is. Like, I was unfortunate to roll my ankle. We were unfortunate the weather was probably the worst weather they've had in Scotland in I don't know how many years. I think there was a picture of me running across a waterfall on the BBC Scottish News. That particular week was just, so we didn't really see what we were expecting, from all the lovely photos.
You didn't get the views.
No, so I'd love to go back and just do it as an adventure, not to race it, just actually try and pick a time, load up the van and go over for the week and kind of watch the forecasts and just really, really see what we didn't see. Because it was a cool experience, but I think we did miss out a lot on the landscape.
Had you recce'd any of it before you ran it?
No, not at all.
It was all virgin.
No. It was all virgin, yeah. And actually, I would have preferred. That's why I'm kind of looking forward to Dragon's Back, because I love the mountains. I love a bit of vertical, and I guess, although my ankle probably wouldn't have been thanking me, so it was probably a little bit easier on the ankle, but it was a lot more flowy than Dragon's Back. There's not as much kind of technical climbing kind of stuff. So, and there was quite a bit on like trail roads and
fire roads and stuff.
Fire roads,
yeah,
which wouldn't suit all the kind of mountain goat runners either. Now, it was fine for me because at that stage I was using both poles and just kind of getting on with it. Climbing was great. Like, my ankle was fine climbing, but basically anything else was just a real kind of...
That explains, actually, because your times definitely expanded into the last few days. You were really... Your daily times were quite low in the first few days.
Yeah.
I think you did the first day in 3.5 hours.
Yeah, I was very lucky that I banked a bit of time in the first couple of days, because from then on, like, it was just this, like, everybody else was going like this and I was going like this, and like, I was feeling like, fitness wise I was grand, tiredness wise, now it was longer days, so I think longer days do take it out of you, and I definitely didn't have enough food with me because I wasn't expecting to be out that long.
That's interesting.
I was moving a lot slower than I would have ever imagined, and again, it was the ankle as opposed to the tiredness. Like,
how long is the longest day on Cape Wrath?
Jeez, I'm actually not sure. Is it around 70, is it? Or just below 70?
And so how long does that take you? Do you go like over sort of 10, 11 hours, or is that... or...
Well, I mean, it like, that day I was definitely... I mean, I was in before dark, but just about. And like, I would have expected to have been in... Again, all things going to plan a lot sooner. So
Yeah, because I mean, with Dragon's Back, it just feels like every day is a long day, really.
yeah,
You know, it's I think if you're reasonably quick, you're getting under 10 hours on most
yeah,
days, but some of them not. And for a lot of like for mid-pack runners, it's sort of 12 hours for a lot of days, and that's just such
yeah.
a long time on your feet.
It's
So
so
that's
hard.
the thing
Yeah,
that I found hardest, is that there's just I mean, I just don't recover that well lying on a tent, basically.
yeah,
just not that
yeah.
good at it, you know.
It's not the most comfortable, definitely not. I think like that was the thing. Like I noticed, like the first couple of days when I did finish early, um, you got back to the tent early, you had a snack or whatever, you had a lot of downtime, and like I would have
Mm.
preferred to have that for the rest of the days, because I do think the longer you're out there, like obviously you're getting less recovery, less kind of
Mm.
downtime, even for your head. That
But less
yeah, it's
recovery, but also, of
definitely
course,
tougher.
you're piling on more stuff that requires recovery too. So it's sort of happening at both ends, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like we did a race last, was it September, the Transalpine over in the Alps, and that's like a really awesome multi-stage race as well. Again, it's 7 days, but like I didn't injure, thank God, and I was finished a lot earlier, but like I was, because Cape Wrath, and it was just because I was finishing later and later every day, I wasn't looking after my recovery. Whereas in Transalp, like they had like recovery boots, I had my recovery shake, I had my roller, and that paid dividends, like, for the whole week. I felt so much stronger and fresher, like even up until the last day. Like obviously you have niggles, you're going to have niggles, but I think looking after that time in between is really, really, really key.
So do you use the like compression boots?
Oh, we have a pair here. I obviously didn't bring them with me, but at that particular event, they had compression boots. And it was funny. Like the
Oh,
first day,
sweet.
everybody was on them. Like you had to queue for them, but by like the end, like day three, there was nobody. So you'd finish and you could just get straight into them, and it was great. And like I made sure, like again, like in Cape Wrath, I was very green. I didn't really know multi-stage. I'd done adventures, but not races.
Mm.
My nutrition was up way off. Like, after all I wanted was chips. Like it wasn't. Whereas with the Transalpine, I was sure all I wanted was chips, but I did get my protein shake in, and I did kind of look after that side of things a little bit better, and my feet, and just using different kind of recovery muscle bombs, stuff like that. So definitely learned a lot, like from Cape Wrath and then that again. So but yeah, I definitely think that time in between for anyone, like, because a lot of people just focus on the run and the race, but I actually think in the multi-stage, it's that time in between, and giving yourself time to just chill out, not be chatting, like just kind of have a half an hour where you're actually just chilling on your own,
Mm.
just kind of taking it all in, like.
Yeah, I'm viewing Cape Wrath as in my head. I've already started to change the terminology of I'm not using the word finish until the last day. I'm using overnight pit stop for every evening. Day one
Yeah,
overnight pit stop, day two overnight pit stop, just to get my head into the right place for it.
yeah,
So I'm
yeah, yeah.
thinking it's done.
Yeah,
Day one is done.
absolutely. Yeah. Tick the boxes off, like, and yeah, like I mean, the thing with the multi-stage is as well, like anything can happen, and it's not over until like you're literally finishing the line on the last day,
Mm.
because you could be winning up until day six, and then you roll your ankle or you
Yeah.
break your leg, or like my husband fell in a river, his waterproofs got stuck in a rock, and he got kind of taken by a river. Now it's
Oh
probably a
wow.
stream normally, but that day it was a river, and he didn't have enough dry kit with him, so he was kind of borderline hypothermic, and he just had to pull
Shit.
out. He was within the cutoff, and he was doing
Mm.
quite well at that stage. I think he was in the top 10 overall, and that was
Wow.
on day 6 of 8. And that was him out, and he was so disappointed because his body was definitely in much better shape than mine was at
Yeah.
that point. But you actually don't know, so you can be as prepared as possible, but at the end of the day, it is an adventure, and
And 7 days of
we just
weather in the mountains can bring you. I mean, in Dragon's Back, we were, I think, both lucky and unlucky that we had 6 days of absolute. Well, no, we had a bit of cloud on day four, but other than that, we had wall to wall sunshine from start to finish, which in some regards was really bad, and in other regards meant we actually got to see Wales.
Oh yeah, we got good views.
Mm.
If you could get through the sort of salty sweat that was just dribbling into your eyes constantly, the views were fantastic.
That's it. But, like, is there a perfect, like?
Well, there is, but for each individual, isn't there? And that's the thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then again,
although I mean, look, 30 degrees and no wind is definitely not perfect for anyone, I don't think. Although maybe it could be uncomfortable for you, and yet amongst the pack, it's the least uncomfortable. So therefore, it gives you a good chance of winning the race. But I think most people would prefer it to be like 10 degrees, a light breeze, some cloud cover, and maybe the occasional bit of rain to cool you off, but keep it dry. Thanks.
Yeah. But it's hard to get that for a continual in Ireland or the UK. For a week of that, you'd be really blessed.
Yeah.
It's interesting as well how that camp life affects those conditions overnight. I've been getting into, obviously we've had a lot of rain, well not obviously, but for those who don't know, we've had an awful lot of rain in the UK over the past 3 months, and I've been doing a lot of training where I've been washing my running kit, but getting into it wet the next morning to go back out, because that's what multi-day races can be. So to get myself comfortable with being uncomfortable, dry pants and socks, but everything else, just taking it straight out of the washing machine, getting it back on.
Absolutely. And that the week we did Cape Wrath, that's exactly what it was. There was no drying at all. It was just miserable.
Damp.
Well, I mean,
you'd hang stuff up inside the tent, but it was pointless. It was just hanging up damp, and then it was damp in the morning. I
remember even Dragon's Back, which was dry as a bone. My kit was still wet, and my shoes were certainly wet every single day. I mean, I guess we must have been going through rivers and streams, and that's how that happened. So you can guarantee you're going to have wet shoes every single day.
Yeah, exactly. And you do just get used to it. Yeah. It's like the new norm.
So you're doing Dragon's Back this year?
I am. I have signed up to Dragon's Back. So really looking forward to that. It's
excited?
Been on the list for a while. I really am. Yeah. And I always I've done a few races where I haven't been excited, and I've kind of said I'm only going to do races from now on that excite me, and Dragon's Back is definitely one of those races. We're going to go over in June to do the 14 Peaks, which is a new race in it's probably like the first day of the Dragon's Back. I think it looks kind of similar to that course. So, but that will probably be our only recce. We might stay there a couple of days after, but no, it just looks unreal. So looking forward to it. And I mean, the guys, same organizers, and it's so well. They do just such a good event, from start to finish.
It's scarily good, isn't it? That's the thing.
It is
so efficient.
The logistics involved in putting something together like that, and it just seems seamless, really. So it's it's going to be a good week. I've got a couple of my husband again, he's doing it, and one of the guys, his best friend, so we'll be going over together, not to race together. We never race together. But we tend to do similar events, so that'll be good too, just to have their company.
Have you got any bits in mind that you're wondering about for Dragon's Back? Anything that you kind of going, is that going to be the challenging bit or not? Or
funny, I haven't researched it enough yet. I don't. What I have
still a way out.
So, so I've Nepal is first, so I kind of look at Nepal, and then after Nepal, I'll probably start looking into it. But I really haven't looked at it in any much detail. I listened to your guys' podcast a little bit.
That's an endurance event on its own, that one.
Yeah, and that was interesting. But I try. Do you know what? I know I don't want to go totally green into it, but I try not to overanalyze things as well, because I think that can kind of suck the joy out of it too. And sometimes it's nice to have a few little surprises.
There's definitely, from hearing Tris and the other guys at the front talking about things, there's definitely an element to knowing the lines on Dragon's Back.
Yes, I did hear that. Yes, that
seems to be, well, Trish, you know more about that than me, but it definitely, I just followed everyone in the distance basically. But
there's definitely
at the sharper end, it's different.
It does depend on the day, but there's days where I think you can probably save yourself half an hour if you get the right lines and because the route provided is not, obviously you've got to hit the certain checkpoints, but the route takes, I guess, the sort of better trodden path, but it's not necessarily the fastest. And this became clear to me a few days in, and so it wasn't until I think the fourth day where I started really kind of looking into the map the day before after I finished, and I was like, I think I could go around there, and I could go around there, and then of course there's past competitors' Strava maps that you can look at as well to see how they deviate from the map, and then there's a bit of discussion in camp as well. I mean, I found on Dragon's Back, the people at the front end were fairly openly, they weren't being too candid about this sort of stuff. I think probably because, people aren't too far from each other, and so it would be difficult to hide on course that you're going a different way. So you got to do a little bit of detective work, I think, around camp, see who it is that's recce'd well. May not be the fastest people, of course, and sort of go, so I'm just looking at tomorrow's map. Any thoughts on that?
And, so that's how you make your friends.
And your enemies.
I was listening to a podcast, and I actually can't remember who it was. It was an American girl who had done Dragon's Back a few years ago. I think she was maybe 4th overall, but she had said that she felt at a massive disadvantage from not having recce'd it, and like people who had recce'd it definitely seem to have chosen, as you say, better lines. So it definitely we'll have to. We'll see a little bit of it, but we'll have to divulge into the maps a little bit more, I guess. For this one.
I mean, I think a lot of it can be done, and again, I didn't do this by just looking at people's Strava maps who've done it before and just seeing how it differs. You don't necessarily have to recce it, though. Of course, it'd be useful because at this point I go left. But so you need to have that map in your head. Or I mean, do you carry you've obviously got to carry a paper map, but are you someone that sort of runs with the paper map in your hand, or are you doing it all off the watch?
I don't. I wish I could say I do, but I don't. No,
me neither.
I'm very much GPX driven. I can read a map, but I tend not to take it out unless I'm lost, to be honest.
There was when we did Dragon's Back last year, Victoria, whose surname escapes me, who was running along as second place female right until the 5th day, I think. And then she dropped that day because I don't know what was going on in the end. She was cramping massively, but I think she probably sort of damaged her quads or something. Anyway, she was running just entirely off the map. No watch, nothing. And it was
I
mean, possibly she had a watch to track time, but there was no map on the watch. So she's doing all the map reading off this paper map, and she was one of the ones I was chatting to in the evening because she'd had this map out and she'd be kind of adding little notes to it and bits and pieces. But which I mean, I can read a map as well, but I just feel more comfortable with a watch. I don't know. It's sad, isn't it?
I guess, it's good to have both so they can kind of back each other up. Like, definitely. Like the race I'm going to do now next month, it's definitely very kind of grassroots. There's not much media on it or anything. And they have sent us GPX files, but they said don't rely on them because those trails mightn't still be there. And
wow.
So I will have to print out. They have sent us kind of files with maps for the different sections. So I will have to use map for a bit of that. But I feel a lot of it will be trodden track, so it's not like where I get lost is the open mountain, where there's nothing to follow. So in Ireland, there's a lot of that, like open mountains. You do kind of have to have a little bit of a clue how to read a map if you want to do that. But like in some places where it's very kind of defined trail, I'm not going to use the map. But
the thing is, with a map, like you're basically at any given moment, you're always questioning if you're going the right way until you find the next point of interest or tree line or road or bridge or river, whatever it is, to confirm that you are. And then as soon as you leave that thing, you're then in the position of not knowing if you're going the right way again until you find the next thing. And obviously sometimes you might run alongside a tree line. So at that point you're like, right, cool, I know I'm in the right place. But it's this sort of, there must be a 500 moments of doubt on any given day that you then have to confirm that actually, no, you don't need to doubt it because you are going the right way constantly. Whereas And whereas with the watch, you kind of know you're always on the right path. Although sometimes GPXs can be a bit off, and they take you, around something the wrong way or this way or whatever, and it's not quite
That's it.
perfect. But
Yeah.
that's my thing about the map reading. It's like it's one less thing. It's one more thing to have to worry about if you are doing it.
Exactly. Yeah. And it takes time, unless you're very good at it, which I'm not.
Yeah.
It takes time where you just want to be running,
Yeah. And also, like, if you're using poles, where's the map go?
Yeah.
And then you've got the feeding thing where you often need two hands and you've got a map stuck in your hand.
Yeah.
I think
it's great.
2022, I think the two Welsh guys that came first and second, I don't think they used a map or a watch. I think they did it all by memory.
Really?
I think they'd run it so many times. Simon Roberts and the other chap that placed first, I think it was. But yeah, I'm pretty sure they knew the rocks that they were, different parts of it. They were running in very close proximity to each other, and they knew it so well between them both. They pretty much didn't need to check on the nav at all. They just ran.
Wow.
Which is home field advantage to the extreme, right?
Oh, totally. But what a lovely way to be able to do it.
Oh, yeah.
Wow, that's impressive to sort of be able to do whatever it is, 250 miles by memory.
And I think because they've done it so many times between them, different, and they both run it multiple years, I think. And they both had different areas of expertise. So they just, used each other to drag each other along, I think, until the last day.
Wow. Yeah, I find sometimes even when I recce a course, I'll still get lost. Like, because I'll have gone the way that I got lost before because it's familiar. And then I'd be like, oh, shit, no. This is went that way again. Yeah.
I'm exactly like that as well. Yeah.
So I just don't trust myself at all. It's terrible. But yeah, Simon Roberts, actually, he did Cape Wrath. He started Cape Wrath the year we did it.
2022, yeah.
Yeah, fantastic runner.
But it's, so tell us more about Nepal. How did that one... You said it's been on your radar for a long time. That's some serious vert out there.
Yeah, I'm very excited about it. So I've been to Nepal a couple of times, and I had done, like, again, it's probably back in 2006 or 7. I'd done the Annapurna circuit, and I remember doing it like with a group and seeing these two guys running it, and I was like, oh, that's what I want to do. I'm coming back. And then I did go back, but it was actually it was a mountain biking trip I did in 2012, I think. And again, I was like, okay, this is faster, but I still want to come back and run. So I came across this. I was just looking for basically races you can do in the Himalayas. And I came across this random race that only happens every maybe 4 or 5, maybe 6 years. It's not really kind of set in stone. And it's these French guys, the Knights of the Wind, who organise it.
Brilliant name.
Yeah. Well, what is the Chevalier de Vert or something? I was like, okay, this sounds interesting. And originally I had signed up to it. It was a 28-day, 28 stage race. And then you had acclimatization before it as well. So I had been kind of training for it for like 2 years. It was my focus kind of. And then, I'd paid my deposit, flights were booked, all was going. And literally, COVID happened.
Shit.
I got an unpaid leave from work. It was like all there. And then I was like, oh shit, okay, this isn't happening. Nothing's happening. And I built up all this, like I was probably the fittest I've ever been in my life in 2020. And it's just gone downhill. But I was so ready. And then, so I was like, look, keep my deposit because whenever this happens, I really, really want to come and do it. Like, so, it's taken 4 years. And now at this stage, at the time, because I was working for other people, I was kind of able to take a bit more time. But now I work for myself and I just can't afford that much time off from what I'm doing. I'm coaching at the moment as well. And just to spend that much time away from the guys I'm coaching, it's not really, I mean, you can put up a program, but like you do need that contact. So I've chosen then to do a shorter version of the race. So it kind of overlaps with the longer one. So it's 8 stages, but I'm going to stay on with the race for another 6 stages just as a non-competitor, just so I can kind of get a little adventure in. And then you have a 3-day acclimatization trek to the start point. So I'll probably be away 3 weeks now as opposed to,
and it's the full, did you say the full race is 28 days?
Well, actually, there is actually a longer one. There's one that's like nearly 50 days. They literally traverse the whole length of the Himalayas.
Oh my
Wow.
God.
Guys, so they'll be gone for like, I don't know, a couple of months. I think it's like 51 days.
What's
And again,
what's the entry fee for a race like that? 51 days traversing the Himalayas supported. It's got to be.
it's actually, do you know what? Like, because I've done races. I'm going to get it up here because I was only looking at it earlier.
I'd love to know the attrition rate after 50 days.
Yeah, like, I mean,
It's like 3 people finishing.
and
We'll pick you up on the way back. It's fine. Just make yourselves at home. We're back in 2 weeks.
you don't like it's obviously there's not big numbers, but it's supported as such. Like you're staying in tea houses where you're not staying in tea houses. You have to carry camping gear.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll show you now. Let me see, where's the long one. So it's called the Great Himal, is the longest version of it, and it depends on how many people sign up. So
Yeah.
if it's between 10 and 14, it's such a price. So they do have more than 30. So it's 3,670 euro
That's
for the
pretty
longer
good.
one.
Wow.
It is. I mean, that's for days.
For a 2-month
Like,
holiday.
Yeah.
pretty much. Yeah. They're gone from the 2nd of April to the 10th of June.
Oh my God. I'll tell you what, if I didn't have a family to look after at home, I think I'd be signing up for that one. That's fantastic. I mean, what an adventure of a lifetime for a couple of months trekking through the Himalayas.
I mean, value for
Absolutely.
money versus Marathon des Sables, you know?
That's what I
Right.
mean. Like, you know, if you look at other races and you're kind of seeing what you're getting. Like with mine, I'm lucky. Like with the 8th stage, it just stops after the 6 days I hike after the 8th stage is where you would have picked up your tent. So I don't need to carry a tent, which is great because
Sweet.
because that wouldn't have been that much fun.
Nah.
It would only be for a few days. It'd be like 4 or 5 days, and it's just where the stages are so remote that there's no tea houses that you can stay in. So yeah, I still have to carry like a big sleeping bag and all my kit, and but I'll probably just eat along the course, as in little tuck shops or whatever I can salvage.
How cold is it going to be?
It's that's debatable. At the moment, it's quite cold on the passes, but we're still a month away. But like, you know, it's like kind of -20, -30 in parts, like because it's all at altitude. But like I do remember from being in those areas before, like because I've done like, so my one is the Annapurna Himal, so it is quite a lot of the Annapurna circuit plus. And I do remember it being like, once it was dry during the day, like it was quite warm. It was more at the night that you really felt the cold. So once you kind of have enough kind of kit for that, but yeah, and like it's a dry cold. It's not like the cold here.
It makes such a difference being in the sunshine or out of the sunshine as well.
Exactly. Yeah. And like, even I do remember being Baltic now when I was doing the mountain biking, because my hands, like, that rain house. So at stages, but then once the sun came out, you were grand. Do you know what
that's a wind chill as well, isn't it? With your hands on a bike. Yeah.
That's it, and they're not moving, and
Yeah.
So once, if I can keep my hands warm and just have, you know, you don't want to bring everything either, or else you're going to be loaded. It's not going to be as enjoyable too. So I have to be smart. And then I do remember, like, you know, if you get really desperate, like, you can buy a little woolly hat or leg warmers.
Yeah, buy some local kit, right?
You know, and like, they're always trying to sell it. So like, you know, I'm not going to get too, again, I'll have like the recommended kit, like the mandatory and a little bit of the recommended, and just kind of hope for the best. I mean, I'm not going to be away as long as the other guys as well. So
I have this image of people starting it looking like they've just left Cotswolds and finish it looking like Shackleton, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think like the biggest kind of thing that takes people out of those particular races is the digestion, food issues, tummy bugs, and so that would be a challenge as well. Just like food hygiene, I guess, and
just because the sort of hygiene standards are like a little bit more questionable. Is that?
Yeah, it would be, and I guess they have different little bugs that we wouldn't have been exposed to as well. So like, they might be grand with them, like the Nepali, but we mightn't be so grand. So so that would be interesting. And I do remember like the first time I was there, I did have a bit of a bug for a few days, but I think as well I had come through India, so I don't know if I'd picked up something there and then kind of carried it with me. But I mean, the food there is amazing. I love their food, which is great because that's all I plan on eating.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, I don't think you're going to be getting a roast dinner, are you? So
no. Lots of rice and curries and chutneys and yeah. Probably highly vegetarian.
I can't remember who I was talking to, but I remember them saying that dysentery is endemic in Nepal. It's constantly going through the population. It will never stop.
Yeah, I can see
it's just
that,
part of that.
Yeah.
Part of the world.
Yeah, you kind of just have to be prepared. Like even our kit list, isn't too bad, but our medical kit list is it's like a pharmacy. Like I went into my local pharmacist and she was like, "What the hell are you doing? Like you need all this shit."
Do you know that surprised me? That surprised me with Dragon's Back. How and I kind of get it, but it did surprise me how much medical kit we had to take for ourselves, especially the blister kit.
Yeah,
previously on events that the medical departments are like fully stocked out. And this one is like, no, bring it all your own shit and we'll dip into yours. And that caught me off guard. But it makes sense in a way, you're going to run out of the same things otherwise.
Yeah. Like on the time we did Cape Wrath, the biggest kind of thing in the medical tent was tibialis anterior. That was the big thing. And we ran out of, we had so much KT tape with us, kind of prepared, but we ran out of that too. And so it did make sense for you to carry that, because then you're stuck. Like they can only carry so much as well. So yeah, no, absolutely.
So your can I say your background is kind of, or at the moment anyway, you are also a yoga teacher.
I do teach yoga.
You do teach yoga. And
I do, yeah.
How do you... So let's focus on that multi-day thing then. In terms of being able to look after your own body or to move through those environments, knowing what to do to undo the day, how much yoga did you do? How beneficial is your insider knowledge on these things?
I would say Cape Wrath, I did none. I would say I did it.
It's hard to do tree when you're underwater, right?
Yeah, I was probably doing a few stretches, lying on top of my sleeping bag the first few days. And then I was just so cold and damp, and couldn't move. I really didn't do much. But as I say, it was a bit of a blur. So maybe I did loads. But yeah, no, I do, definitely Transalpine, I was a lot better at kind of doing my stretches and my kind of activations and stuff after I did. Yeah, I'd probably, they kind of facilitated it though. There was yoga mats there where the recovery boots were. So it was just like a little sequence that you just kind of got into doing after the race. So, and you'd be chatting away to somebody and they'd be stretching beside you. So it was just a lot easier. You didn't have to think about it. But no, it is something that I plan on doing for Dragon's Back. Definitely keeping the mobility into it. Definitely.
It's Trafan, I think, on the first day was a shock to me. The brutality of Trafan.
Yeah.
I hadn't really... And I've looked at videos since. I've just seen video recently of a lady getting rescued who slipped when she was scattering her dad's ashes and she ended up halfway down the slope of Trafan.
Oh, man.
Or the face. And she had to be airlifted off. Her coat snagged.
Wow.
And stopped her from falling any further.
Whoa.
But then when I saw the helicopter footage going into rescue her, I kind of went, "Oh shit!" That's
a bit extreme.
Didn't even realize when I did it how it's definitely one that you want to hit before you do it. I think.
Yeah.
I wonder what they would have done with her ashes if she'd actually died.
Well, you get caught in a vicious circle then,
because you wouldn't be volunteering to take then her and her dad's ashes up, would you?
The risk assessment and the insurance just get out of control.
It's too much.
Standing in front of a mirror with a mirror behind you, it's just,
I think that is part of the race for that 14 peaks that we've signed up to, because I think it does.
I was going to say, if it's not, then definitely take a little bit of a detour and go do it. because
Yeah, no.
there's some lines on that you can take advantage of as well. I found out.
Oh, it's a
Yeah.
total mess at the top. It's like you just don't really know where to go. Like that's going to be efficient because it's just piles of rocks and that jagged rocks
Really,
everywhere left,
yeah.
right, and center. And
Yeah.
there's just not really. Well, I'm sure there are good lines through it, but there's probably 100 ways of doing it, and
Wow.
none of them
And
seem very inviting.
were you following your GPX, your route, or like for that, or was it just literally where do we go?
I did, but I shouldn't have. I saw some climbers that came off because there's I'll get the pronunciation wrong for sure, but there's Glitterfock and Glenmore that follow Trefan, and I saw
Right.
a group of climbers that had come off of Trefan that were climbing up, and my route took me over a small stile and then up a scree face, and they were heading the same way, but then their group leader basically said, "Oh no, we're not going that way. We'll go up the side of this wall." And I struggled up that scree face, and by the time I got to the top, they were kind of heading off in the distance. So I wish I'd have gone their way.
Okay.
But
Yeah,
I just
yeah. It
followed a
definitely
line of
sounded like.
collapsed runners waiting for helicopter rescue. Quite
Okay.
easy.
Was it that bad?
Yeah. There were, I think, 6 helicopter rescues first day, I think it was.
Holy shit. And that was all like heat exhaustion
Yeah,
mostly,
heat
was it?
exhaustion.
Or-
Yeah.
Wow. That's
From
crazy.
Trefan onwards, it got interesting.
Yeah. That's
But
interesting. Yeah, because I saw like the actual the not dropout rate, but like there was quite a lot gone from
130
day
on the
one.
first day
That's crazy.
out of 300.
Yeah, yeah. And how many of them would have continued then on with the hatchling?
Most.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
it
that's
really
good.
caught Araya by surprise how many. I mean, they handled it, but
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
they'd never done hatchling at that. Well, they'd never really done the hatchling before, not
Yeah.
the way it was publicized. So
Yeah.
they were overwhelmed almost with people wanting to do it. So they had to ramp up transport and food and all,
Oh wow.
which
Yeah,
they
yeah.
did very well. We never noticed, but
Yeah.
yeah,
I
they
think it was
were
wasn't it only
happy with
like
that.
10 or 15% of the starters didn't get to the last day in some way or another, right? So,
Right.
as in, like, there out of the 300, I think it was only like 10 or 15% who left camp altogether and never came back, kind
Oh,
of thing.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Most
good.
carried straight onto the hatchling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, that's
Sorry,
good.
I was trying to. I knew what I was trying to say, but I said it in the most complicated way.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like yoga. To the end, hatchling many did complete. Yeah.
It was, but yeah, it was brilliant. But I would definitely say Trefan, it's perfectly placed to sieve you out.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
It's
Interesting. And I think in Cape Wrath now as well. Now they have a shorter version
they've got
too.
the Explorer, yeah.
Yeah, because they didn't have it the year we did it, and there was definitely people that would have probably opted then onto that. I'd say, there was people who'd missed cutoffs the first day who were there was nothing wrong. They just missed the cutoff, and like some of them, they did kind of have like that you could do half of the next day or whatever, but it was hard logistically for the team because it wasn't really planned.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's great to have that as a.
Have they changed it now? So you can actually just sign up and do the hatchling or the Explorer, right?
Yeah, you can enter at that level.
Which I think I don't know. I think for a lot of people, it's probably the sensible move is to start with something a little bit smaller. Then again, if you've got the money to sign up for the full one,
You really want to just go.
Yeah, and you find you're all right with it, then why not?
Yeah. We signed up to the spine this year, the northern spine, because like that, I was thinking, in my head, I was like, oh, maybe I'd like to do that someday, like the full spine. And again, Johnny and Mick, two of the guys, were they'd signed up to it, and I was like, okay, maybe they'd signed up to the northern. And I was like, well, this could be a good year to do. To see if I'm ready for this kind of stuff, and I will not be signing up for the full. So it was a good, it was a good thing to be able to try the shorter. I was like, nah, that's enough. I'm good. I'm good for that now.
I think the
I'll stick to
video of the
multi-stage.
spine did that for me.
Yeah,
I watched it and just went, no, I'm not interested in that now. Had the anti-effect.
Yeah,
That's
the
brutal.
video I should have watched before I signed up as well, but I didn't.
It was the bit where the guy had no skin on his anterior tibs.
Yeah,
it was just gone.
Yeah, not the prettiest now. Although, like this year, there wasn't anything too gruesome. I don't think the conditions weren't as bad as some other years, but
Mm.
yeah, I just know from my body it's definitely not for me. But it was definitely great to have the shorter version, that you found out then. And as well, even the investment, obviously, to invest into the longer one and then realize a couple of days in, you're like, no, this isn't for me. You'd be kind of kicking yourself, like, so yeah, it was
Well,
good to
Shane
have
was telling us that happens on Cape Wrath as well, because
Yeah.
day 2 and 3, I think he said there's no way out except helicopter or rescue boat. And he says that there's people discover on day 2 that this really isn't what they want to do.
Yeah.
And they've got a hell of a job getting them out then.
Yeah. No, it's tough. Yeah.
Well, I think with multi-day, this sort of, it starts to sink in probably towards the end of the second day what you've got yourself in for, because on the first day you're running on fresh legs and it's all exciting and there's all the kind of camp spirit and everything, and then when you start the second day you're like, okay, it seems like I'm doing another long run, and I did one yesterday, and then of course towards the end of that day you're knackered again and you realize you've got whatever it is, like 4, 5, 6 days left of this thing. And that's when you're like, I think I need to escape from this however I can.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot of mind play going on there. I always find that I think like once you get to hump day, once you get to the middle day, when you've less days to do than you've just done, I feel once you can get over that, it does start to feel, I mean, not feel as in you could be in pain, but as in just mentally, it's a lot easier to stomach. Like, okay, I've done that much, so it's only this I have to do now. So
totally,
yeah, it's just getting over that.
Yeah, I do remember this sort of sense of complete dread on the last day of Dragon's Back, when everyone's got this attitude in camp, like all the team is like, well done, you've done it, you've just got to get to Cardiff. And you're like, I think it's like 70 kilometers or something.
It's 40 miles on the last day.
Yeah. And you're like, I've already run like 200 miles this week, 200 and something miles.
Yeah.
Like, I'm knackered. And I know it's the easiest day, but it's also the hardest day because I'm knackered.
It was the only day we got to run together because you were fucked.
Yeah. Had enough by that
point. What were the highlights? If you had to pick any highlights for me to look out for on Cape Wrath, obviously you were shrouded in cloud. But
the highlight, well, like the second day was quite nice.
I thought you could say like the finish. The finish is awesome. So look forward to the finish.
I do remember seeing stuff on the second day, and I suppose I was still in my element that day because I hadn't rolled my ankle and I was just really enjoying being out there. But yeah, I didn't really see that much after that. So like, the highlight was probably, getting to that lighthouse on the last day and knowing that I knew I'd crippled myself, but knowing I was still moving, but yeah, I don't know.
David's video made me sit. David Barry, we about David, and you know him, and his video of that year made me sit up and kind of squirm in my seat a little bit when I saw the weather, and I kind of went, "Oh shit."
You kind of think though it could never be that bad again. That'd be the. Maybe.
But this is the thing, isn't it? How do you prepare yourself for any weather? You can't prepare yourself for any weather because it could be anything or everything. Or nothing like you prepared for.
Yeah, because like even people had contacted me after, like who were doing Cape Wrath like the next year about advice on kit, and I think they had really nice conditions. So it's like what I would say, you definitely need this, and you can't pack enough for like wet gear and and then like it's sunshine for the week, and they're like, so it really, I mean, that's it. It's like, to me, they're more like expedition adventure races, like, and it's not like. The conditions are a bigger factor nearly than the run itself, and how you deal with them and how you manage them, and I don't know.
Yeah, it's certainly brings out every potential, every bit of kit that you've got, and every bit of resilience that you have, don't they?
That's it. And as well, like then you're talking about food, like, because as I said, I ran out of food because I probably packed more kit, even though I still could have done with kit, and I probably scrimped back on food thinking I won't be out there so long. So then, like when you have to choose, like when you have a limited weight, you do have to be quite strategic as to, what you're packing too. So yeah, it's a tough one.
Well, because I didn't finish Dragon's Back competitively, I did the hatchling. I brought back half of my food roughly. I did 140 miles of the 240, but the food that I didn't use on Dragon's Back, that saw me through all of my winter training runs.
Yeah.
It was amazing. I just kept going in and pulling more food out. It's like, Jesus Christ. So that was an interesting benefit.
I had a similar experience doing, so I did 170 of the Northern Spine K there in January, and I didn't eat enough, to be honest. It was too cold, and I wasn't looking after my hydration. Like everything was freezing, and then I fell. My hip flexor spasmed and locked out, and I actually just couldn't lift my legs. So it wasn't. It was kind of mentally, it was grand, but physically, I actually just couldn't keep going. But the two guys I was with, they ended up coming join third, so they kept running, and while they were running, I was being shipped between different checkpoints and trying to figure my way out. Like, because once you're done, you're done. So it's kind of up to you to find your way home. But I knew I had to get to the finish because we were all traveling together. But I literally ate all of my food. I don't think I've ever eaten as many energy balls and like fruitcake. Like I was absolutely starving. And they were like, so like you must have loads of food left. And I was like, opening my pack, I have a few energy gels. I didn't eat my energy gels, but all the real food was gone. I was probably still nibbling on the ferry on the way home, and then it was gone.
One of my biggest cock-ups on Dragon's Back was I got a camping plate and bowl, and when I weighed them, as you do, you weigh everything, don't you? The scales were out, the secondary scales were out. I was checking everything, and this plate and bowl came in at like half a kilo, and I went, oh shit, I mean, they were massive, but they were too heavy. So I panic bought a titanium bowl and plate off of Amazon.
Oh wow!
It arrived 2 days before. Yeah, so it's like, I don't know, 30 odd quid. And it was like 18 grams or 30 grams. I thought, fantastic. It was like a pinhead. It was tiny. So I kept having to go back up to the serving can. It cost me so much energy going backwards and forwards with this tiny bowl and plate. I was like, for fuck's. So that's kind of my thing for Cape Wrath, is the bigger. I mean, if I can get titanium, I will again, but it has to be bigger this time. It was embarrassing. It looked like I was taking a saucer up for food. You forget your real plate, Jay. So that's definite must. The all-you-can-eat buffet is only effective if you can carry a lot of food in one go.
Absolutely, yeah. The bigger the container, and
rookie
the lighter,
error.
The better. Yeah.
Oh man.
Well, we were like on the spine, like because you had to carry it, like you were really kind of trying to scrimp down on all like the mandatory kit, I mean, again, I was a little bit green going into it, but when I did see what other people were carrying, like, I mean, it makes massive difference to how you're moving, But yeah.
The great thing about YouTube is that it almost becomes an intelligence exercise, doesn't it? Intelligence gathering exercise. I've looked at people's race numbers before on videos, going through some footage that somebody else has made, knowing that they're in roughly the right area and they look the same height as me, and they maybe got an aversion to shaving or something that makes them similar to me. And then I've found their race number. Then I've found their Strava. Then I've looked at similar. You can really kind of try to find out. It's really stalkerish. But
that's kind of scary. Too much information.
Do you know, I've been injured of late, so I'm not running at much at the moment. And I've had a couple of people contact me and say, Jay, we haven't seen anything from you on Strava. Are you okay? Which is like, oh shit, that's kind of how we, it's our, there's a lot of information out there that we put out there freely, and it can be useful to other people to kind of gather stuff. And it is a good source of like race paces and things like that, and to understand how someone's training is going comparatively. We should use it carefully. I mean, I'm a big fan of really not comparing yourself to somebody else, but it's useful information to gauge against the known things that you can gauge against.
Absolutely in race. Yeah. Just say, actually, even my dad's on Strava, and like I kind of, even though I do call him, but like I will notice if he hasn't been on it for a few days. I'm like, oh shit, there's something wrong here. Or else you'll get like 20 likes in a row, like thumbs up in a row, and you're like, oh, he's back, yep. It's okay.
Strava dies for me if I'm not running. It just disappears. Well, that's been brilliant, Laura. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank
It's
you,
great.
guys. Yeah, great
And
chatting to you.
yeah, feel free to reach out to us. Tris is probably more at your end of the field, but feel free to reach out to us if you've got any questions about Dragon's Back or kit or anything that we can. I mean,
Yeah, I
you're pretty
probably
well
will
seasoned,
be.
but
By the sounds of it, you've kind of scared me a little bit there. So
Yeah, just don't look at my GPX on Strava, because I took the kind of established routes, or sometimes even the wrong route.
okay. So I'll have to find someone else to stalk then.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you can ask Jay about stalking tips, obviously.
Yeah, brilliant.
I'll send you the guide that I've written.
Deadly, deadly.
Just a big bowl. That's all you need. Just a big bowl. Solves everything.
Sorted. And likewise, if you need any tips on Cape Wrath, but as I say, a
Oh,
lot of it is a
fantastic.
bit of a blur.
Well,
But anything at all I can have.
we can. You are on social media, so we'll put a link up to your social media, and everyone can have a look at what's going on out in Nepal as well. Hopefully, see some great images from out there.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. I feel it's probably going to be a little bit off the radar. We do have to carry our own tracker, but I don't think it'll be one of the dot watching races, which is probably no harm.
yeah, I think just a little bit off grid, and then but I think those images,
Yeah,
it's going to be an inspiring thing to see, even if it's just
absolutely.
afterwards. The images that you post. So yeah, that we'll post some
Yeah,
stuff up there for you.
yeah. No, excited.
Awesome.
Guys, great to chat to you. Lovely
Yeah,
to meet you.
you too.
Thanks, Laura.
Cheers.
Happy
Take
running.
care. Cheers.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.